somebody has to stand up and yell, the emperor has no clothes, and everybody's falling in lockstep on this. Pass the big, beautiful bill. Don't question anything. Well, conservatives do need to stand up and have their voice heard.
So that is Rand Paul, one of the senators who, I guess, to varying degrees of credit, are standing up against Donald Trump and House Republicans who want to ram through this absolutely disastrous, big, ugly bill. I take issue a little bit with some of the analogies he's making. Never have I less been interested in an emperor not wearing clothes. Let's keep him well clothed, multiple layers, please. But it is down to the Republicans of the Senate as to whether that bill is going to pass, or more likely, once they start to change things around and edit it, what actually comes through and potentially gets passed again, both by the Senate and the House. So we had a 1 vote margin in the House. The Senate is also pretty tight as well. It might not be as tight, but as you'll see, and we're gonna cover it, there's different Republican senators that have different problems, sometimes facing in the exact opposite direction. And so you have Rand Paul, he's got some issues. You have Susan Collins, who we can always count on to do the right thing. She said she's worried about kicking Medicaid recipients who are unable to work off the program, as well as the bill's effects on rural hospitals, which are estimated to be absolutely devastating. Lisa Murkowski said she's worried that her state will struggle to put in place new work requirements because of its outdated Medicaid payment systems. And I'm sure no states, Alaska included, would allow their inability to get the system up and running to stop people from being kicked off. And they would be devastated by that. I mean, they're not gonna stand for that, obviously. Josh Hawley, he's vowed to oppose the bill if it cuts Medicaid benefits, which it's going to. So I guess he's going to vote against it. He said he's concerned about new Medicaid copays, which he dubbed a sick tax, which I actually like that rhetorically. I think that's pretty good, because they're not just gonna be kicking a lot of people off of Medicaid, they're also gonna be charging people who make very little money to begin with more just for using Medicaid, shifting more of the cost onto the people who have the least as they hand trillions of dollars over to the wealthy. So that's the big part of Medicaid. It's not the only part that some of them have issues with. There's also the clean energy cuts. The House bill would scrap tax credits for wind, solar, and geothermal energy that Democrats passed under Joe Biden. Murkowski and Senator John Curtis of Utah and Tom Tillis of North Carolina, as well as Jerry Moran of Kansas, warned in a letter to John Thune, the majority leader, last month that they had concerns about such an approach. And then there's other things. Katie Britt, Josh Hawley are also pushing for bigger tax breaks for parents with children. And so that's good. And then you also have the people who want even more to be cut, or want the tax breaks for the billionaire class to be even bigger. So, it's moving in a lot of directions. It's a whole bunch of cats all in one bag. We don't know exactly what's gonna come out of that once the bag is opened up, Yaz. But what do you think about the current state of this battle and what ended up coming out of the House Republicans?
Yeah, I think this is very disappointing to see. Obviously, it's very disappointing, but I think the uncertainty of it is something that it is being talked about. But I think the impact that this is going to have, if this actually gets passed in the Senate, is going to be pretty detrimental to a lot of people's lives, right? Rand Paul, for one, he's kind of hard to keep track of. He's had moments where he was very Trumpy and other times where he was not Trumpy. He, as far as I know, still identifies as a libertarian. So I think a lot of people who really weren't falling in line with either of the parties found some kind of middle ground with Rand Paul, which is kind of interesting to talk about now. But 10 years ago, that is really how it was, including with his father Ron Paul. But it's like now he wants to talk about how the emperor has no clothes. It's a little late, right? It's a little late for Republicans to only now start, speaking out against Donald Trump and speaking out against the administration and speaking out against things that this administration is peddling. For example, climate change isn't real, right? Right now, the Republicans want to start talking about like, oh, you know what? Maybe it is real. Maybe there is some kind of realism to that. For years, they have been demonizing Medicaid and Medicare and threatening these programs. And now Rand Paul and Susan Collins, et cetera, now they want to come out and say that. So it feels like way too little, way too late, because this bill was already passed in the House. Now they want to do it. The timing is mind-boggling, right? They are trying to put the forever chemicals back into our water now on the climate front, on the environmental front. They're selling off our national park land, right? They're undoing years, decades really, of activism that fought for things like cleaner air and cleaner land, cleaner water supplies and cleaner food systems, right? None of that is something that should go unnoticed or unrecognized. This is decades worth of activism that has been done on behalf of the American people, not just of the American people, but on the behalf of the entire planet. We are one of the biggest polluters in the world, right? And so the things that we do here regarding our climate has impacts around the world. And as much progress as we have made in those fields, especially with things like cleaner energy, with hydro and wind energy and solar energy, rolling all those things back is really just a slap in the face of so many people. I mean, like, I grew up in the 90s and we were learning about how the coral reefs are dying back then. We were learning about global warming and its effects back then. This is 30 years ago. And so all of that work that has been done since then, since before then, really, it's really sad to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to not remind me of the
how long ago the 90s
during
were, yeah.
these well, that too. 100% that too. Easy for you to make jokes about Miss Young, but anyway, yeah, don't remind me about the environment because I've mostly not been thinking about it since Trump was sworn in because the long-term ramifications of the fact that he won rather than Harris are really too dark to really think about that much. But jumping back into the Medicare side of this, we got a comment from Diane who says, I went to the doctor's Friday and they told me my copay is $75 and before it was 50 cents. I can't go to the docs anymore now. So that's devastating for Diane, and I am very sorry to hear about that. Now, think about, project forward a year or two. Let's say that this bill has passed and they have all these new copays for like middle class and working poor people. So think about it from their point of view. Like they make it so you have to pay $50 or whatever, which to them is absolutely nothing. They don't even acknowledge it. Their butler writes the check or whatever. But for the people who be affected by it, it means they're not gonna go at all, probably. They're gonna push off, like if they start to feel symptoms or whatever, they're not gonna deal with it. They start to feel something chronic, they're gonna wait longer and longer, which is obviously more devastating for their health. But think about, like, they don't pay the $50 because they can't afford it. And then the government doesn't have to pay far more than $50 that would result if you had actual medical care. So they put this onus on you. You're gonna be screwed over health-wise, and they can save tons of money. I mean, sure, lots of people will get sick, lots of people will die, but clearly that's not a consideration for the vast majority of these politicians. And so we're gonna get to the moral side of this, but it's just, this is so utterly grotesque. And again, all of this is in pursuit of defraying a little bit of the additional money that they're giving to the people who will never be able to spend all the money they have if that was their entire goal from now until the day they die. How deeply, deeply immoral this entire enterprise is. Now, Ron Johnson, will close with this, says that there's enough opposition in the Senate to potentially hold up the bill. Okay, good. Good, I'll cross my fingers. I will not hold my breath in the same way that I advised you not to when we were covering all the different revelations that like, oh, in the House, it might not make it through. Man, when trillions of dollars are on the line for their donors, they find a way.